Welcome to Houston Sports Talk with your host, Robert Land.
Boom, 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 boom. Is your heart still beating after that one? A few hours later, welcome to our live Texans-Jags postgame show. What a game. Thanks for checking into the best Houston sports podcast, part of the National Bleav Network, presented by FanDuel. And joining me to break it down, as usual, our cast of characters, contributor and the Bullpen podcast host, Tom Chavarria, and Houston radio legend Jayson Braddock. And hey, you live YouTube viewers, you also are a part of the conversation. So hit us with your comments and questions. And Tom, just like we all thought, Davis Mills saves the Texans season. Davis Mills, what are you telling me? Wow.
I mean, there's so much to talk about. Obviously, we're going to get into it. The chat's already live. Real quick shout out. My son turned 16 today. He's the guy that made me dad. So quick shout out to Felix. Happy birthday, son. The flag in the back. TX Whiskey has a cool little setup at Specs with the flag. Solid bottle of TX. Horrible branding. We're not sponsored, but if they wanted to, that'd be great. And we needed it for this game because it had everything.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Happy birthday, Felix.
Yeah, and you got to talk about a little bit, Jayson. Davis Mills, 27 for 45, 292 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Tony says Jacksonville should consider trading a 2027 first rounder for Davis Mills.
I felt like some of those were going to be coming in during the show. I definitely get it. Jacksonville their fans talked a lot of noise after that first game earlier this season. Talked a lot of noise going into this week, knowing what the Texans were dealing with injury, CJ Stroud being out of the game, and Davis Mills responded. I mean, I'll be the first to admit I didn't expect this type of showing from Davis Mills, but he did show up in a big way and made some clutch throws.
Absolutely. And shocking moves on the Texans O-line. No Blake Fisher, Juice Scruggs, or Laken Tomlinson to start the game. Instead, Jayson, they go with Jared Patterson. Okay, I get it. C.D. So and Trent Brown. What did you think of those moves when you saw the lineups and how the O-line performed today? What was your thoughts on that as well?
Yeah, I mean, that's 2 different stories. To begin the day, it left me scratching my head. Like, I understand change. I expected it earlier in the season for them to kind of mess around a little bit more, try different guys here. I didn't expect wholesale changes where you're talking about a left guard, a new left guard starting this week, a new right guard starting this week, a new right tackle. Trent Brown couldn't see the field. C.D. Sell couldn't get off the practice squad. And Jared Patterson, for whatever reason, I mean, I liked him at center, and yet he couldn't get on at left guard at center with all the struggles early this season or throughout the season at the left guard position. So it did surprise me, caught me off guard. That being said, I have to say 2 out of 3 is not bad.
Yeah, people are wondering, says Brian, if the Texans offense is better without CJ. I would hold off on that. But yeah, Davis, nice game, of course. And who knew that Kaylee could call a competent offensive game, Brian says. So, and we'll get to some more of the comments as this one goes along. But yeah, we need to hear from you guys for sure. Texans defense gets the Jags off the field quickly to start the game. Bullock has a near pick, to start the game, terrible pick, I should say, by Davis Mills right out of the gate. And this was interesting. They started off, Tom, with 3 plays that were all passes. Were you surprised about that to start the game with Davis Mills?
I think really what this was about was trying to get away from what Jacksonville thought they were going to do. You know, everybody, it's no secret the Texans are wanting to be a run-first team. So naturally, you got a backup quarterback, offensive line kind of shaky. Probably going to run the football, right? Absolutely not. Kaylee goes against the grain. I thought it was a good move to target where he targeted. The nickel corner was out for Jacksonville. So they attacked the backup, which I thought made sense. It just wasn't a good throw.
Yeah, he just was trying to make those quick throws to start the game, get into this rhythm, Jayson, and it just looked like, he didn't see where the defense was going to play at that particular play, and that's what caused the interception.
Yeah, great point from Tom as far as mentioned. Jordan Lewis out of this game, picked off CJ Stroud in the first matchup this year, has had a phenomenal season. I mean, not a good, but a great season for Jordan Lewis. So it was kind of disappointing for the Texans to come out and have, like Tom said, the backup Jaron Jones step up there. And what I took away from that play is as if they did film review. Yeah, yes, every team in the NFL does film review because he sat on it like he knew what Davis's tendency was going off of last week. Davis was going to that read. He sat on it and he didn't hesitate. He didn't doubt himself. He exploded to the ball and played the ball better than I think it was Christian Kirk. It was intended to. So he played the ball better than Kirk there, was more aggressive and really just came downhill on the ball. So it's like they came out prepared for that and then they executed. I guess kudos to Davis Mills for making the tackle, but he was rolled down, so it did come back. But at that point, he didn't know. So, yeah, it was a horrific way to start the game, and it made people feel, present company included, that all after what we saw from Davis Mills last week, that hey, didn't really give you any expectations from anything more than the same from the previous week of Davis Mills at that point. Davis Mills.
Yeah, and
I'm joining the whole national media on messing this guy's name up, and I never have before. Davis Mills, my apologies. Definitely need some respect on your name today of all days.
Yeah, and I started off saying that the Texans defense gets the Jags off the field quickly. Yes, they did get them off the field quickly after the interception. Unfortunately, Bullock has a near pick. Will Anderson hits Lawrence on third down, forcing a bad throw. But when I say unfortunately, it's the field goal attempt. Nico roughs the Jags snapper after having the block kick last week. So the Texans D back on. They get another 3 and out again. No harm really after the Nico screw up. But Tremont Smith stripped on the kickoff, I should say. And Trevor Lawrence throws it to Parker Washington for the touchdown. All of a sudden, it's 10-0. Tom, you can't have a worse start than that. And I mean, it's just it just looked like, it's going to be a long day.
Tremont Smith for me has no business returning kicks. I don't even know if he knew he was going to be returning kicks, because why on earth would you wear a long sleeve shirt to return kicks like in a dome? Like if anything, wear something that's like more form fitting. I just felt like the ball just came right out. He had it in the wrong arm. I mean, it looked bad all the way around. I really felt for the Texans or their defense, because here we go, 5 minutes into the game, and we've had to defend a lot and in our end. Just horrible way to start the game. I hate this for Frank Ross and the special teams, because they normally play decent. I'm not going to say they're this world-beating special teams unit, but I don't think they're ever bad. I think they make some plays and normally do their job. And today it was not it.
Oh, absolutely not. And what really pissed me off, Jayson, is after the second kickoff, Berrios and Knoll are taking the next kickoff instead of Pierce and Tremont Smith, who started the game. You mean you can put your two best kick returners out there? Really? You can do that? What?
Well, I think what's even more frustrating than that is, I guess, factoring into that is that if Jalen Noel is not getting a snap count at the wide receiver position among the top 3 or even top 4 wide receivers this late in the season, then there's really no excuse for him not to be on punt returns, not to be on kick returns. And we saw earlier this year they took him off punt returns and put Berrios back there, and then that quickly was resolved. And to your point, Robert, here you got Berrios with the best kick return of the day, and Jalen Noel's out there in front of him laying the key block. So, I mean, again, it's one of those things that I think for Texans fans and those covering the team, what's frustrating is when the coaches, and I know the coaches and management and all that are smarter than us, but when they're not, and when they do stuff that proves that they're not smarter than your average fan or those covering the team, I think that becomes really frustrating, because you sit here all season long, or at least after the first couple of weeks, and you're like, Woody Marks needs to be heavily involved, not 50-50 split, but heavily involved. And it finally took to this game to see it really slide the scale over to Woody Marks being the true number one back for this team. And he responded well with it. No shocker there. Jaden Higgins has responded well. Jalen Noel, Braxton Berrios on the kick return you mentioned. So I guess that's where the frustration comes in for those covering the team, and definitely for the fans that are sitting at home and they're saying, why don't you just do X, Y, and Z? Because it seems logical. And to their point, it is logical.
Yeah. And let me just say, I know Frank Ross is going to take a beating today. I know a lot of people are going to say, oh, the Texans, big win, Davis Mills, blah, blah, blah. Hey, none of this gets D'Amico Ryans off the hook for me today. I am not D'Amico Ryans as a Super Bowl coach after this game, because there was a lot of garbage that continues to happen. It's the same stuff all over again. And you know what? D'Amico Ryans, not Frank Ross, not the offensive coordinator, not Caserio, not Hal McNair, not Hannah McNair, not Janice McNair, D'Amico Ryans. In the end, you are in charge of who gets on the field and who doesn't. And if D'Amico Ryans doesn't want Ogun Bwale on the field, if D'Amico Ryans wants Jalen Noel playing wide receiver, if D'Amico Ryans wants Jalen Noel in kickoff and punt return, then that's who's out there, not the guys that they're putting out there. So, like, D'Amico Ryans, you're not off the hook, and we're going to talk more about as the game goes along. Blake Fisher, next drive, commits a holding penalty, showing why he ain't starting. So he was in as the sixth man as usual, but making a name for himself doing that. Nico penalized on a minus pass play. Mills fumbles the snap. Buttermaker is drinking beers on the sideline. It's the bad news bears for the Texans as the game starts. And is it just me, Jason, or do D'Amico's teams always come out of the gate slow? This seems to be a pattern with them.
Well, this year, I mean, if you look at point differential, they were. I'm not sure what it is after this game. I'm sure it's more of the same, but they have been outscored in point differential in the first and third quarter, and have outscored opponents in the second and fourth quarter, if I'm not mistaken. What's puzzling about that is because typically your offense, you come out with a scheduled first 15, 20 plays, whatever it may be. We all know that from Kubiak here in Houston, always hearing about his pre-scheduled plays there to start the game and coming out at the half. So that's puzzling to me. That being said, as far as this week, there's so much good to overweigh the bad and everything they overcame in this game. I said after the game, the Texans didn't shoot themselves in the foot this game. They used a Tommy gun on their foot. You know what I mean? They went full blast, sitting on the trigger in their foot. I mean, it was every mistake you could possibly make, which led to the movie type ending that I'm sure we'll get to, obviously. But I'm not going to be too critical on D'Amico or anyone else involved in the organization. That's probably best saved for another week due to what we saw. I mean, this franchise, and I kind of felt like they weren't going to make the playoffs after they dropped the Denver game last week, and I still feel they'll come up a little bit short. That being said, you take this week to week, and there's still a path to the playoffs. They're now one game behind the Jacksonville Jaguars for that last playoff spot, one game behind Kansas City Chiefs as the 8th seed, and as it currently sits, they have the tiebreaker over both of those teams. So it's not like a true 2 games, it's really 1 game. And so now there's a lot of season left to get to that, but I think there was a lot of positives with everything they had to overcome in this game.
So next up, Danielle Hunter sack stops any Jags momentum on the next drive, but next chance Davis Mills gets a delay of game. We're going to get to some more of that issue with Texans. Mills gets sacked on a stunt handled like last year's offensive line. It was not pretty. Scruggs in at this point at right guard, Jake Andrews, and Scruggs just couldn't handle a stunt like we saw all last year. Then Parker Washington returns the punt for a touchdown. So Frank Ross, you mentioned it earlier. I mean, it was ugly, Tom, the special teams in this game. And really, that's 2 touchdowns that you can directly point to with the special teams. And this is probably a totally different looking game.
That's why I don't understand your your vitriol for DeMeco Ryans. He literally is not the dude responsible for special teams. I know he's the head coach, but he's got to delegate. He can't watch everyone. He just can't. But if the special teams don't give them, and I say give them because I think there were some lane assignments that were terribly missed on that punt return. 14 points. We're talking about a game that they win going away, and then it's a totally different narrative. The fact that they had to do what they had to do, good on them. Again, I hate this for Frank Ross and his team because normally they don't hurt you. I mean, they don't really help you, but they don't hurt you. Today, they definitely hurt the Texans, and it took everything to come back from it.
So you think that DeMeco is not in charge if, Frank Ross says, I want Jalen Noel back there and I want Barrios back there, and DeMeco says, oh, you're in charge. Janice McNair and Cal McNair and Hannah, they did not want me as head coach. They wanted you in charge of this team as far as, who's playing out there on the field. Like, what are you talking about, Tom? I don't get it. Like, he's got the last say on this, right?
You won't get it because you think he's making every decision for the entire team. He delegates to these coaches, offensive, defensive, and special team coach, to go and do the job. Do your job. Now, will he have a final say? Sure. Maybe that's why we got player changes that we got. But the dude running out there to begin with, who knows who put him out there? That could have been a Frank Ross decision. And we'll never hear it because he'll always stand up there and say, look, I'm the face of the team. But I got to believe, as a head coach, any head coach would tell you, I'm delegating responsibilities to these coaches, and I'm trusting them to make the right decision.
Yeah, and look, I mean, first of all, I don't care if he's delegating it. In the end, he's got the final say on the whole thing. His job is on the line if he screws this up. And I'm putting on the screen right now Brandon, who says Caserio is making these moves, not the coaches. All right, enough. I've had it with the fans, Jason. I've had it with everybody. Caserio is not running this franchise. I get it. He's the GM. But come on, guys.
It's the same logic.
DeMeco's whole job is on the line by personnel moves. His job is on the line by who he hires as OC. If he gives up all of this, and he had all of the – Jason, am I wrong? Did he not have all the control when he got hired? Did everybody not see that Caserio was basically on his knees in that hostage video when DeMeco was hired? There was no way Caserio said, DeMeco is my guy. I love DeMeco. No, this was a Cal McNair decision. This was, hey, we need a face of this franchise. Get out of the way, Nick Caserio. We're getting DeMeco Ryans. He is beloved by this fan base. I know him because I liked him because I was there when he was a player with my dad, Bob. Look, Caserio, he's doing stuff, but this is not Caserio picking coaches, picking who plays. Caserio isn't picking the sandwiches that are on the sideline during the game, which color Gatorade they're doing. No, DeMeco has freaking control of this team. You cannot tell me there are guys coming to Houston, not because it's Caserio, but because DeMeco Ryans is running this franchise. There are guys that are talking about the Texans like, we want to play for DeMeco Ryans. They're not saying we want to play for Nick Caserio, Jason. Would the fans just stop this? This is stupid. Brandon, you don't know what you're talking about.
I think if you want me to respond on it and there's a lot there to unravel, but just in a nutshell, I think if you're talking about these situations, like going back to Frank Ross has one of the better special team units year in, year out, very well thought of. He is a Nick Caserio guy. I mean, they both went to John Carroll. So it's definitely a Nick Carroll guy, keeps hanging on through different coaches. But he's still really good at his job and typically has a talented, one of the better top 10 type special teams unit. So that being said, I would tend to believe that Frank Ross has input on it. And we all have watched Hard Knocks over the years. What happens? The head coach sits there at the table and he goes around to each positional coach asking their thoughts. He'll add in his input, but a lot of times, unless it's something he's just completely against, then they're going to tend to lean on the guy that's over that positional group day in, day out. So with Frank Ross, I think he is the one deciding who's back there on returns, who's not. Now D'Amico can come in and trump him, obviously, as the head coach, but I think it's more than I think a lot of this stuff we get called is all the way to the left and all the way to the right. And as in most situations in sports and in life, it's typically more in the middle where it's not as black and white, but more in the gray where there's conversations being had.
Yeah, DJ Bieniemy, according to Engineer, I missed this quote, but I 100% believe it. Obviously, you heard me yelling about it. DJ Bieniemy says D'Amico's the most powerful person in the organization after the McNairs, and like trust that. And I'm not saying like Frank Ross needs to go after this game. He had a bad game. I'll grant him that, but I'm just saying.
And he's had a couple bad, to your point, he's had a couple bad games this year where special teams hasn't looked like a Frank Ross unit, excuse me. But I feel like we can't get too caught up in the moment. I know that's hard to do with there's not 82 games in the seasons or 162 games in a season. So a lot of time with this week to week, we do view it so much and overanalyze it a lot, myself included, obviously. But I think you have to look at the whole picture of things, of what Frank Ross has done through his career here and the good weeks, as opposed to the 2 to 3 outlier weeks this season, like this game. This was a bad spell. I'm not disagreeing with it. This was a horrific special team showing.
Yeah, and I'm not saying fire Frank Ross, but it was a terrible game for him. And I am saying, like, in the end, who gets back there on kickoff returns? That's D'Amico Ryans. Ultimate control is D'Amico Ryans. Ultimate control is D'Amico Ryans. You know, I mean, he likes to give up some control of some stuff. That's fine. But I mean, to Tom's point, like, he's the guy that also said at some point, I'm controlling the defense. And at some point he said, you know what? I'm giving Matt Burke play calling duties here. So he has ultimate control of all this stuff. And if there's, the buck stops here, the buck stops here. Moving on this one, Texans offense finally showing some life after that. Jalen Noel actually gets offensive snaps as a wide receiver. That's cool to see because lo and behold, 27 yards, first down catch, and then Noel opens up the big hole for a 21-yard Woody Marks run with the great block pointed out nicely by J.J. Watt on the broadcast. But as usual, the drive dies inside the 5. They settle for 3. The bad news keeps coming after that. MJ Stewart carted off the field. Terrible stuff. He's out for the season after the MJ injury. Typical Texans. Lack of discipline on the next play. Lassiter called for taunting, which is, of course, a genius move when you're down by 14. What are you taunting, guys, when you're down by 14 and you made one stop? I mean, come on. Then Tom D'Amico makes an obvious terrible challenge before the Jags field goal. What was the point of that one, too? Like, at this point, I'm like, where is D'Amico? Like, did D'Amico's brain somehow leave his head when the game started? Like, what's going on with this team?
I don't know about all that. I thought the challenge was at trying to stop them from getting those yardage on a questionable catch
for the field goal.
Yeah. He's trying to protect, making this a harder field goal than it is. You can argue whether or not you thought it was worth the challenge. I think it's better to use it there than not use it at all. I think, it was definitely questionable. It went through the dude's hands. Yeah, he pins it against his body. There probably wasn't enough to overturn it. But I feel like if they called that incomplete, they probably don't. If it's challenged the other way, they probably don't win that either.
Yeah, I didn't see it. I just flat out didn't see, that it was even that close of a, like, we got to do this. And, to me, those challenges are valuable. You want to save them for something that you're a little bit more sure about. And there was nothing in that replay that I saw that I was like super sure about. So, and it's still like at the point of the game where you're like, well, hey, we could still use this down the road. Cause obviously we know how it turned out. You never know how it's going to happen. So, and that field goal
Yeah, my fault, Robert. I didn't mean to cut you off. But if I'm not mistaken, just to add my 2 cents on that, I think the catch made it 4th and 5 and put them in field goal range. And I know this kicker set the NFL record, Cam Little. So, I mean, he may have still been able to kick an 80-yarder. But at that point where you're down that big, if you don't win, you lose. Yeah, you lose a challenge, but you lose a timeout, a first half timeout. You're down big. You don't want to give up another 3 points that could be crucial. To me, watching the play, I didn't think it was a bad challenge, not only because of the field goal aspect, but because he didn't catch it with his hands. It got into his body and did hit the ground. I don't think they had the angle to say 100% conclusively that the ground helped him catch it. But if it wasn't to put him in field goal range, then obviously don't challenge it as it's 4th and 5. But with that catch, put him in field goal range and giving him 3 more points, and it being in the first half as opposed to the second half, I didn't think it was a major issue to go ahead and roll the dice there to try to keep 3 points off the board.
Yeah, I was about to say, and you mentioned it, Cam Little, he could kick it from anywhere. So I don't know. He might have still kicked the field goal. I mean, if he was in the stadium, he could probably kick the football. We're going to get into that little Cam Little tidbit in just a second with what's going on big time at the end of the game. But before we move on, more stuff, just a quick reminder, if you're not watching live, still want to hear you in the YouTube comments. You ready to move on from D'Amico Ryans at this point? Are you still angry, or are you thinking, oh, we're seeing some stuff that you like? Let me know in the comments. Tomorrow night, we talk Rockets with one of our favorites, Cooper Klein. Oh, it should be fun after a big comeback for the Rockets today as well. And in case you missed it, watch my conversation with Moses Malone biographer Paul Nepper a couple of days ago. Find out how he saves the Rockets franchise. Yeah, there's so much to talk about in that interview that was really fun, and how he also connects to Steven Adams in a way. Really good stuff. And you'll learn about a Rockets real legend. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube with notifications so you can get updates on the live shows and all of our content. You also want to subscribe to us on your favorite podcast app. All right, back to the action. Higgins and Nico, a couple of first down catches. Then Trent Brown. And I just thought this was like 3D chess by Trent Brown. He's like, okay, I'm going to fall down in pass coverage and set up a roughing penalty on Davis Mills. Beautiful, way to go there, Trent Brown, thinking ahead. But yeah, it just worked out perfectly for the Texans. Then Nico, 16-yard completion at the 4. And hey, Tom, the Texans finally wise up inside the 4 and get Woody to the outside for a touchdown, to the outside. That was cool.
Yeah, this has been something that I think we've been asking for as Texan fans for a while. You've seen the guy being able to get to the outside and make plays happen. So, credit to Nick Caley, and I guess credit to D'Amico Ryans, right? I mean, he's got to get some credit for that too, doesn't he? I mean, they scored. He gets final say, right? No, I'm just playing. But, great play. I'm glad they got the 6. The team needed it in the worst way.
Yeah, and Jason, I thought Caley played a perfect game strategy. There was some really nice, new look play stuff that we haven't seen from it's like, this is the stuff I think all Texans fans have been waiting. Like, this is stuff that you expect more from what we saw a little bit in, LA with the Rams and how they were coached at.
Yeah, by halftime of this game, looking at social media, usually I'm not on social media during the game. During the games, today I kind of felt like it could get a little bit crazy with the fans' reaction if the Texans lost this game. So I was a little bit more involved today, watching the comings and goings of the comments to kind of see the pulse of the city a little bit, if you will. And by halftime of this game, I think social media had fired the general manager, the head coach, the offensive coordinator, the special teams coach, the Gatorade guy you were talking about. He got the axe, Robert. I hate to tell you. Even Toro got fired, I think, by halftime of this game. So, I mean, it was crazy, the emotions of the fans. And I get it when it's a game that could possibly, most likely, if you lose, in your realistic hopes for the playoffs, your emotions are going to be a little bit on edge. So I was having a little bit fun with that as far as just teasing a little bit with that. But I understand where the emotions come from. That being said, though, I recollect Tom after the Seahawks game talking about this is Nick Caley's first year as an offensive coordinator. You didn't expect everything to just be smooth sailing. So you got to give a guy a little bit of rope, let them go out there and see if they continue to progress and develop. We're barely hitting the halfway point of the season, and there's been talk for over a month plus about firing Nick Caley. And so, I mean, to that point, I'm not in the, I'm not in the camp of fire Caserio, fire D'Amico, fire Kaylee, fire Frank Ross. I'm fine with all of it. I want to see how it progresses through this year. And I want to see how they all continue to develop. I've been going, talking to people because everybody's out on Caserio because of the offensive line. And then the same breath, they talking about how great Ariante Ursary is. I'm like, you can't say two things at once. And you can't point at one area on a team and say that's why a guy should be fired, and then go and praise Derek Stingley Jr., Kamari Lasser, Kalen Bullock, Will Anderson Jr., Danielle Hunter, Aziz Al-Shire, C.J. Stroud. I mean, it goes on and on. Ariante Ursary, Nico Collins, Jaden Higgins, Jalen Noel. You can't go on and praise 90%, 80, 90% of the draft picks and free agent signings and then go ahead and point to this one area. And even in that area, overlook the fact that he took Laramie Tunsil, where everybody questioned the logic on it, flipped the salary, got an abundance of draft picks, quality draft picks, hit on Ariante Ursary in the second round, and has him playing in there to replace Laramie Tunsil. And none of us are talking about left tackle this year. And so I feel like a lot of the talk, it gets pointed too much without having the benefit of peripheral and see the entire picture.
Yeah, that's funny you say that because Texans fans aren't talking about Ursary and Tunsil. National people are talking about that. I mean, according to national people, that's what's wrong with the Texans offensive line is they traded
Really?
away Laramie Tunsil. At least that's what, I seem to hear. And the other part about what you were saying is, it's the point I keep making. Caserio, God, he didn't have anything to do with the fact that the defense is the best defense in the NFL.
Right.
And even though, wait a second, they're being coached up right, but he's got everything to do with the offense stinking. And yet, well, we don't have a good offensive coordinator. And, Brandon or whoever, who all these, Texans fans are that are paying no attention. Like you can't have it both ways. You can't say, well, D'Amico, he doesn't get any credit for what he's doing with the defense. He gets all the credit for what he's doing with the offense. I'm consistent. Like I've got across the board stuff with D'Amico, but the fans like decide to pick and choose, whose fault and whose credit and whatever, depending on who they like, whether it's Caserio, whether it's D'Amico, whatever, and who they don't like. Like I'm being pretty consistent. I mean, Tom can laugh at me. He can make fun of me because because he doesn't like what I say about D'Amico, but Tom knows I'm consistent.
I think Tom. Like, I don't think Tom's laughing at it. I think he likes to just poke you in the ribs a little bit to get you going. That's more what it feels like.
I was laughing at the face you made at what Jayson said. You're like, yeah, whatever. I saw it. Like, look, the way I feel about it, and the way I've consistently felt about it, is there a package deal? You can't get one without the other. And you want to like create this divide, and you want to be like, I'm out on D'Amico. Well, if you're out on D'Amico, you're out on Caserio. And I'm not out on either. So, both of them are cooking together. Caserio gave D'Amico a game ball today. Like, he didn't have to do that. Like, stop the whole thing and said, look, he's got a heavy heart. Here's a game ball. Like, they're a package deal. And I think they're working together. And I don't think there's like one against the other. And he's giving me this and I'm not being able to pick that. I think they are legit in lockstep together. And for everybody that's mad with Caserio or mad with D'Amico, they're both a package deal.
Yeah, Robert, I think you hit a great point, Robert, when you said you can't be out on Caserio and not credit him for the top defense in the NFL. I mean, that's That's Caserio. D'Amico runs it. He puts together the mindset. And to your point, people come to Houston to play for D'Amico in that. But Caserio built that foundation. One point I talked about earlier this week that cause it's funny to me because we have revisionary history, especially if you don't like a guy. Nick Caserio gets almost no credit for drafting Derek Stingley Jr. I've paid attention to the draft, going back to the early 2000s and started writing and covering it in 2009. Well, let me take you back to what the realization was in that draft. No one, no one had Derek Stingley Jr. over Sauce Gardner. Not talking about skill set. Everybody knew what Stingley was capable of as a freshman, but the injury history was so concerning that nobody was willing to say, "Hey, take this top prospect." And Stingley that has this injury concern, legit injury concern, over another top prospect at the same position as Sauce Gardner. Go look at all the mocks. Everybody had Sauce going there. Sauce just got traded. Stingley just got this massive extension, just had a one-handed diving pick today. I mean, just goes into the vault of Houston Texans all-time plays. And Caserio doesn't get any credit for that. I think a lot of people tend to forget what the organization was like before Caserio came on board, and the Deshaun Watson sexual assault, 23 plus sexual assault cases. And everybody was saying, you're not going to be able to get a dime on the dollar for this dude. He flipped that dude to rebuild the entire organization, set up the salary cap to where they're competitive and able to go year in, year out. I know I saw some people mentioning, well, the window's closed. It's going to be a 2-year rebuild. Go look at the contracts. The window every 1 to 2 years resets. Your mistakes reset every 1 to 2 years. The window's never closed with this. And so that's why I have no issue with Caserio saying he doesn't believe in a window. At first, I was one of the ones like, okay. And then I looked at how he started building these contracts and how it's structured to where you can move on from guys. And after 1 to 2 years, you can completely erase your mistakes and just build your foundations on the hits. He doesn't get the credit he deserves for C.J. Stroud and Will Anderson Jr. Everybody loved those guys. Yes, but nobody is saying take CJ and then trade up to number 3. That's why it was such a big deal. What's the 2 biggest franchise foundation pieces in the NFL? Franchise quarterback, defensive end. He got both of them in the same draft, and they're both great players. Phenomenal.
Yeah, you led me in perfectly because the very next drive, you talked about it. Stingley with that interception. We were about to get there. And let me just say this about Derek Stingley. And I'm glad you brought up Sauce Gardner, because if you hadn't brought it up, I was going to bring it up. That turned out like everybody thought Caserio was an idiot a couple of years ago when Sauce had that great rookie season. But that's turned out beautifully. Yep. And you know why it's turned out beautifully? Because Derek Stingley has been healthy for the most part. And that's another thing that I want to mention about Derek Stingley. This guy continues to get banged up. He came off the field again, but he comes back in. His toughness, we got to talk about Derek Stingley's toughness, because he's had some injuries, but that is no longer a talking point. You know, whether this guy wants to be out there, whether this guy has the heart and whatever. No, Derek Stingley has the heart. And that interception saved a potential 65-yard field goal by Cam Little. And I mean it, like Cam Little could absolutely have done that at the end of the half. He's got that range, and that's an important play in this football game. So we go to the third quarter. Unfortunately, the Hail Mary, not a great Hail Mary, because it turns out to be Nico just stat padding because Davis Mills doesn't have the arm to get it all the way to the end zone. But third quarter, Jags drive down into field goal range. Danico Autry knocks down a third down pass, a little bit making up for his mistake earlier. Cam Little puts the Jags up 13, though. Still doesn't look too good. Texans get into Jags territory, but Schultz drops a third down throw, and then a fourth down throw to Nico is knocked away. And Tom, this is where I got a question for you. Is there any thought for you of going or not going for it, like they went for it on 4th and 5, of not going for it because that would have been at the 42. And believe it or not, because I went over to Pro Football Reference, Matthew Wright has kicked a 59-yard field goal. And, if you kick the field goal, that makes it a touchdown in a field goal game instead of, a touchdown in a touchdown game. Was there any thought of that for you?
It's tough because at the time I would have been good with either outcome. I understand kicking field goals, but I understand the stigma about the Texans and here we go. We're kicking another field goal. We need 7. And I know whether D'Amico wants to admit to it or not, he hears the noise. So in the back of his mind, he's thinking about, if I go out there and kick another field goal, when we're down these points, people are going to cook me and I'm going to have to listen to it. So I appreciate him, going for it. I really do. Like, I think at that point in time, you can kick the field goal and yeah, we're a little closer, but it really doesn't move the needle enough unless you come back.
Yeah. If y'all don't mind me jumping in here, because this is in hindsight, this is what I said in that moment. I said, I thought it was a mistake to go for it. Your offense not clicking there. Your defense is the best in the NFL. I don't kick the field goal. I don't go for it. I punt it. It's still a 2-score game. It's still in the third quarter. You've got plenty of time. Your offense wasn't clicking at that point. Punt the ball, pin them back inside of their own 10-yard line. Tommy Townsend, I swear we talk about it every week. Even this week, the Parker Washington punt return for a touchdown, 72-yard punt return. Tommy Townsend punted that from the middle of his own end zone. You know where Parker Washington caught that ball? On his own 29-yard line, 68-yard punt. I mean, Tommy Townsend is pinning it inside the 5, inside the 1, almost weekly. And each week we talk about, like, this guy's a legit weapon. Use your weapon there. Use your strength. Play to your strength. Kick it back. I felt like they panicked a little bit on a 4th and 5. Is it 4th and 2? Okay, go for it. 4th and 5, backup quarterback, not clicking like what we saw through the rest of the day. Then I say go ahead, punt it, pin them back, and then let your defense get that same field position. Your defense likely gets them 3 and out. You get the ball at the 50-yard line. If you don't get it, now you're giving them great field position where just one first down puts them in field goal range, and now you're probably on the edge of going from a 2-score to a 3-score game. What happened, Robert, when they didn't convert that 4th and 5? What happened on the next series for Jacksonville?
Yeah, next Jags drive, Bullock's costly missed tackle on 3rd and 17 basically gives the Jags 6 points. Missed tackles, that's a part of D'Amico's coaching resume too, Jayson. I mean, J.J. Watt, he threw it out there in the show on Sunday.
I think that's fair.
Yeah. Is that fixable, you think, or does it matter when your D's this good?
No, I think it's definitely fixable. It's definitely an issue. Kalen Bullock, the guy always had range on his college film. My concern was that he would miss tackles. We haven't seen it as much as I thought we would see it, but one thing we haven't really touched on on this tonight, and not a lot of people have talked about this week, Jalen Petrie was out this game. That Texans defense is not the same defense without Jalen Petrie. It's not a take Petrie out, put player A in. It's take Petrie out, shift this over in this look, shift this over, these 2 players over in this look. So there were some moving pieces and some players in positions that wouldn't typically be in position. No excuse for Bullock. You've got to make that tackle. You have to be self-aware to know it's 3rd and long. I don't need to fly up and make sure to maximize this tackle. Let me make the safe wrap-up tackle and wait for Swarm to get here, even if I give up another 5 yards, because then it's still 4th and 10. So I thought that lacked a lot of self-awareness and something that was a concern on the scouting report for Bullock coming out, but not something we've seen a tremendous amount happily for the Texans in his early career. But Henry To'oTo'o, we haven't seen that accountability for his missed tackles and in big moments as well. So, no, to that point, as far as that being on D'Amico, I 100 wholeheartedly agree with you on that. That goes down to coaching.
Yeah, luckily, after all of that, here we are. It looks like a total disaster, game over. But, I guess give D'Amico credit for this. They don't throw the white flag at this point. 13 plays, ends in a Higgins 12-yard touchdown. And Tom, we got to talk about this. Nico, this one-handed catch on the 2-point conversion. That is the difference in the ball game. Think about it. At the end of the game, Jacksonville with the football, they're down 1 point. That's a Nico 2-point conversion away from just taking a knee.
If that's CeeDee Lamb, if that's Justin Jefferson, if that's if that's Jackson Smith and Jigba, that's a top play ESPN #1 highlight. Because it's Nico and he's a quiet guy, it might not even have been a deal. Like the dude just quietly goes about, does his business. We are blessed to have Nico Collins because, this dude could be banging his chest. He could be in the media when he doesn't get the football. He doesn't do that. He's like, look, I just want to be out there for my brothers. And the guy makes amazing plays all the time.
With one more thing I want to add on that, Robert, is that what makes that exceptional, it's an exceptional play, top 1% of plays, if it's just what D'Amico does on that. Go back and watch that play frame by frame and see where Davis Mills, when he throws that ball. D'Amico comes off and press for about 2, 3, 4, 5 yards there, and he's fighting to get off press. While he's still fighting to get off press, Davis Mills already starts his throw. After he's already started his throw, D'Amico goes upfield, shakes, and works back to the pylon, and the ball is right there where Nico does have to make an excellent catch, but puts it in the only place where Nico can get it. And so, the pass by itself is a 1% play. The catch by itself is a 1% play. Marrying both of those two together on the same play, I don't have the words for it. It's just upper echelon execution.
Yeah, and I basically, Tom, I'm going to give credit to where credit's due on this one because, I know Caserio, he's got no say over drafting unless it's the offensive line. So give D'Amico credit, Tom, for drafting Nico Collins. Look at his scouting. This is not on Caserio. It was D'Amico scouting. And D'Amico was back there and said, we got to, wait, hold on. Wait a second. I'm just being told that D'Amico Ryans was not around when Nico Collins was drafted. So forget all that. Yes. This guy actually drafts a little bit on offense. And where was he drafted again, Tom? But just remind everybody, where was Nico Collins drafted? Was it top of the first round? Was he like top 5 guy?
No, sir. No, sir. What did third round pick? It's been a little bit.
Third round.
Same as Tank Dell, same as Jalen Noel. Here's the funny thing about that, because we're talking about wide receiver guys. All right, so you know what my knock, this is me personally, my knock on Nick Caserio when he was in New England, came to Houston, he couldn't draft wide receivers. Go back and look at his draft history. They had great vet guys and everything else, and they landed Edelman in the 7th round. Outside of that, Aaron Dobson, Josh Boychie, he could not draft wide receivers. What has he done since he got to Houston? Nothing but draft studs. Outside of Mechie, which is that draft, I wanted Alec Pierce or George Pickens. Not hindsight. Those are the two guys I thought the Texans would go with there. That being said, again, the exception's not the rule. Tank Dell, Nico Collins, Jaden Higgins, Jalen Noel, all that trumps that. The reason I bring this up is because everyone's saying fire Nick Caserio because he's got a blind spot and can't draft offensive linemen. I said the same thing about him in New England about wide receivers. People can adapt. Every year I miss on draft prospects horribly. And then there's a lot of guys I hit on. Everybody's the same way. If they tell you they're not, they're lying to your face. But you go back every year and you self-scout and see where you made your mistakes. Nick Caserio is no different. That's a smart dude. Now, do I understand his personality be off-putting? 100%, absolutely. You don't need to like the guy. You need him to get you the personnel, and I think he's smart for that.
Yeah, and he's gambled a couple of times, and you can get pissed at him for gambling. Maybe his biggest mistakes are, adding these extra years for guys that was there a necessity to add extra years, whether it was Shaq Mason, whether it was Christian Kirk. We've seen this a couple of times, but you tend to make those gambles because you're like, maybe I can get them. It's like a buy low stock. And he's tried to buy low stock a few times. It's not worked out. I don't think they're devastating mistakes, but fans, if you don't like Caserio, it's like a girl. It's like, okay, she's kind of cute, but I don't like her that much. So I'm gonna find the stuff that her ears look a little bit off. I don't like the way she's always telling me what to do. Whatever it is, it's the same thing. And so that's the deal with Caserio. It's beauty in the eye of the beholder, and that's where I am on him. Let's move on. Texans D, as in Danielle Hunter, D for Danielle Hunter, because what a day. Picks up his third sack, forcing a Jags punt. More Danielle Hunter as this one goes along. And then more Nico Collins, another all-pro catch. And these are guys with incredible ability that, just start making plays. The playmakers start making plays, and the Texans have playmakers. Nico between two defenders inside the 30. Also, really nice throw by Davis Mills there. That wasn't mentioned a whole lot on the broadcast, but I thought that was a great throw. It's right here. I make a note of the second, fourth quarter timeout the Texans blew because they had to avoid a delay of game in the red zone. Was that a new QB problem, or is that a Texans issue? Mull on that for a second. But Mills makes his second elite pass of this drive on the Schultz touchdown. And Tom, he also made a hell of a throw on that Nico catch. So, Davis had some moments here that, I didn't know were in Davis. We didn't see this in Davis early in his career.
See, and the thing with Davis is a lot of people, if you go and you get on social media, Davis has a fan base. Davis, there are people that are like, look, if you let Davis spin it, he could be the guy. And I'm not one of those people. I think where he is where he should be. Now, you hit the nail on the head. There are some throws he made today that make you wonder, like, hey, could he be the guy for somebody? Is someone going to come to Nick Caserio and go, hey, I really like to have your backup quarterback and see if he could compete?
Well, they've already come.
No, I mean going forward. Yes,
yeah.
They have already come.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, Tom, because the Texans getting that extra year, if I'm not mistaken. What do you got? Davis Mills for $7 million in 2026. That's a value contract. And we've seen you're not getting a quarterback that can compete for a starting job for $7 million. You're not giving them for $17 million. So that's a tradable asset now. And I know people are going to make it into the Matt Schaub, Sage Rosenfeld. No, CJ Stroud's the Texans quarterback. I root for Davis Mills like I root for Jalen Green. I don't have nothing against these kids. They came up in Houston. I wish them great success. But when you move on from them, you pull for them, wish for them great success. But Davis Mills is not going to take the job like Sage Rosenfeld was never going to take it from Matt Schaub. Davis isn't going to take the job from CJ Stroud unless something horrific happens, knock on wood, as far as injury or something of that sort. So that being said, I think what you take away from this game is sell high. You have a value contract for a quarterback that just balled out like maybe a Matt Flynn. We all remember Matt Flynn going to Seattle, then they draft Russell Wilson, and then that contract just goes to waste. And I'm not saying Davis Mills is going to be Matt Flynn, but I'm saying he can take that small sample size and turn it into a new contract, bigger deal with the value contract he has. And I don't think it's crazy that with the way Davis Mills performed today, if this is the last game he plays at the Texans, if Houston flips him for a return on investment, they used a third-round pick on him back in the 2021 draft. To be able to get a third-round pick back, or even if it's a fourth round, but to be able to match that same pick possibly, and because of the contract he has and the position he plays, I don't think that's ludicrous, especially off the back of this performance.
Hey, wait a second. Tom, I'm just getting a call. It's from David Mulligetta. He has told me now that he is dumping CJ Stroud, and he has just picked up Davis Mills as his client. He's betting the bank that Davis Mills is the guy. No, I'm just kidding. Right. Jags next drive, shut down on a third down pass deflection by Alshire. Nice play there. Huge throw by Mills to Schultz on third down inside their own 10. And that's another one.
Third and 10.
Absolute. Yeah, big one. Texans start putting together the drive. 6 minutes left. Chubb and Marks moving the ball behind. I got to put a little emphasis on this. Huge offensive line holes. Guys pushing guys back big time in that drive. Nice call also by Nick Caley on the 3rd and 3 at the 31. Jason, he motion Marks, who gets the ball in space on the outside. That's one of my all-time favorite Nick Caley plays that we've seen in Texans history, in his 9 games.
He said in history. Yeah, nice. Well played, Robert. No, I think it's an excellent point. And going back to what we mentioned early on the show, where this guy's still developing. We look at rookie prospects that make mistakes, and then we see their growth week over week. We're seeing that same growth. Anybody that moves into the first year of a new position is going to progress and get better. They're not going to put their peak value up in their first year. So seeing that and acknowledging those growths are things that make you more optimistic for where this Texans team could possibly go, even if it's not in 2025, but in 2026, when you have a young core. And I think a lot of times it's easy to forget, Tank Dell's coming back. Nico Collins, Tank Dell, Jaden Higgins, Jalen Noel as a core four. My God, C.J. Stroud, Cade Stover coming back, and if you add an elite pass catching tight end where Stover can do a little bit of both, and he remains your number two, and you do plug those O-line, and what if you go out there and you sign a Brees Hall, who's only going to be, 25 by next season? I mean, you start getting excited if that does come to fruition. And a lot of those, we're only talking about really a couple new pieces to that offense. And if you can get it to where that comes to fruition with how dangerous it sounds in our head talking about it, then marry that up with this defense that you have. And then could for the people that want to fire any of the coaches or GMs or anything, could you see why maybe waiting another year could be something that you entertain with the value of what could come to fruition, even though it didn't happen in year three. And it didn't happen on CJ's rookie deal, as him and Will Anderson Jr. will be new contract eligible following the season.
Hey, and we got Ogunbowale, so yeah, we don't need Brees Hall.
He's going nowhere. He's going nowhere.
We don't need Brees. And look,
did that guy even play on offense? Why is he catching strays today?
I think he played a couple snaps. I think he played 3 or 4 snaps or something. It doesn't make sense to me. And I've been saying this for 3 years now, that he's got something on the Texans organization. There's a dirty file somewhere sitting around. And if he doesn't get brought back, it's getting revealed in 2026.
Man, it's Watergate. I don't know what's going on. And look, on that drive, the Texans actually got a bad officiating call go their way for once. The PI on Christian Kirk's defender,
absolutely
questionable to say the least. I think in the end, Aziz gets Aziz. Aziz gets fined $15,000 somehow for that play. I don't know how, but he'll get fined. The Texans give most of it back on 2 procedure penalties, Trent Brown and Ursery. Typical Texans, but not so typical, Tom. Because how about Davis Mills? What a scramble on 3rd down. Wow.
Yeah, it's something we've been begging from C.J. Stroud to pick his spots and use his legs. Now, obviously, he did that when he got injured. But credit to, Davis Mills for knowing that and still having the heart to go make that run, because he was running into the teeth of that defense. I think it was awesome. Because you had pass rush coming from the backside, and he just outran it. And you watch, I can't remember the name, it was 44. You just watch him give up at the end.
Trayvon Walker, former number 1 overall pick.
He's so mad that Davis Mills ran away from him and scored a touchdown, and he should be. But that's just a great play, great heads up by him going, okay, I don't have anywhere to go. My internal clock, I'm done. I gotta go, and he picked the right spot.
It's 3rd and goal from the 14-yard line. You know what I mean? That's insane. In a situation where you have to get the touchdown to win this game, 3rd and goal from the 14-yard line, you already converted the 3rd and 10 from your own 7-yard line with pressure leaking off your blind side that you got to throw on the jump to hit Dalton Schultz in stride. That same drive, a 93-yard game-winning touchdown drive for Davis Mills. Trent Brown completely whiffs on Trayvon Walker. And like Tom laid out, illustrated perfectly, he's having to run for his life and able to run that in for the touchdown there. And I mentioned all that to say this. I don't want the O-line this week, even though run blocking was some of the best I've seen all year. The pass protection, it wasn't as clean as it's been made out to be. What made it look cleaner than what it was, Davis Mills avoid at least 4 or 5 would-be sacks that would typically be sacks. Davis Mills got out of, either threw the ball away, scrambled, ran for the game-winning touchdown.
And hey, Davis made some big plays, but man, on defense, there's one guy and one guy only, Danielle Hunter. Danielle Hunter put on a freaking clinic after not having a sack for 4 weeks. Next drive, he gets his fourth. In the stats, it's 3.5, but he had, I want to say, 5 TFLs also. Incredible game for Danielle Hunter. Can't be said enough. Just what a job he did. But the Texans basically learning nothing from the QB scrambles that have killed them. JJ Watt actually showed why it was good to have him on the broadcast, because he knew he was calling it before it happened. He was worried before it happened. So Lawrence scrambles for big yards, but game-changing break on that hands to the face penalty. Wow, that was a big one. And then what a way to end it. Will Anderson pressure ends up in that Rankins touchdown. And Jason, what were the Jags doing? There were 7 seconds left. Lawrence took his time like it was going to be a Hail Mary, but none of their receivers went deep. By the time Trevor scrambles, game's over with right there.
Well, I think that's why everybody had those bracelets back in the 90s or early 2000s, the WWJD bracelets. What were Jags doing? Because nobody knows the answer. I mean, this is something that's been going on for decades there. So I don't have the answer for it. Danielle Hunter, I call him the Condor, because you just watch him in this game come around the edge, throw those big wings out there and just wrap up Trevor Lawrence and lay him down. It was just a thing of beauty watching Danielle Hunter. Also, 7 tackles. Only Azeez Al-Shire had more tackles than Danielle Hunter, a defensive end in this game, who had 7 tackles, with Azeez having one more at 8 at the team lead. Just complete, phenomenal, all-around game. Still getting paid massive bucks, getting up there in age, but I don't see any fall off on this guy whatsoever. I hope the Texans are able to possibly even extend him a couple more years, because I don't see the decline, and not every human is the same. So just because he goes and turns 32, 33, whatever it may be in the next couple years, I don't think we see that fall off until maybe year 33, maybe year 34. What's Autry now? 35,
36.
36, geez. And I know Autry is not apples to apples there, but he can still make big time plays there. So I say all that to say this: Danielle Hunter is still worth every penny he's making from the Texans, and that's what you want to see when a guy like Nick Caserio goes out and signs him in free agency.
Nah, that's D'Amico. D'Amico, again, great contract. He basically took Caserio, shoved him aside, and said, look, I'm going to do this contract. Forget it that you're the GM. This is my job. So,
Nice.
Tom, our friends at FanDuel had the Texans favored. They got it right on this one, even though all of us did not want to put money on the Texans here. They finally picked up a point total low enough that inspired a Texan shootout. So the over-under, the Texans actually went over for the second time this year. Texans favored by 7.5, Tom, against the Titans. I'm guessing this changes depending on Stroud's concussion. 7.5, I don't know. Feels like a lot if it's Mills next week, even though it's the Titans.
I don't know. I mean, the post game, you listen to Davis Mills, he made it sound like this was the only start he was going to get. And if you listen to CJ's mom, he's getting better every day. So I think the 7.5 really reflects Vegas thinks that CJ is going to play. And I think that's a good number.
Jason, what do you think?
No, I thought it was going to come in. I was sitting there going back and forth in my head trying to see if I could guess it on the money. I actually had it over. I had it at 9.5. I thought this would be 9.5. Cam Ward, I think the guy has talent, makes some phenomenal throws, and may turn out to be a great quarterback in this league. He's far off from it now. He hasn't thrown more than one quarterback or even had more than one total touchdown in a game this year. I think the Texans defense, he's the most sacked quarterback in the league. The Texans defense should be able to put them in some bad situations, get some turnovers. And I think whether it's CJ or even if it's Davis Mills, I think they may have found something, especially in the running game. I mean, I was shocked. I mean, I go back and watch. All right, this is my thing. I watched the game live, then I watched the TV copy after the game, and then the next day I go do the film study on the All 22. So I watch each game 3 times. I can't think of a game this year where I've seen guys just put a hat on a hat, and to your credit, Robert, not open holes, but open alleys. to where you could drive a Mack truck through these things. And that's what you saw today. I mean, just massive mauling out there that we haven't seen all year. One of the prettiest things to me, I grew up a Broncos fan watching the zone blocking system where you just see the guys just flow from the first level to the second level. And the Broncos, and then later on the Texans, and then Terrell Davis and Arian Foster. I got spoiled thinking that's what it always looks like, right? Then you watch the Texans this year and you go back, and film studies hard to do because it's just ugly. For lack of a better term, it's just ugly. You don't see the beauty of the game where they're just flowing to their zone blocks, get in there in space. Terrell Davis or Arian Foster's not making that one cut. Today was the prettiest run blocking I've seen all year, and it was fun to watch.
Jayson, I want to ask you about this because, look, man, I am the biggest Jared Patterson fan. When he's out there, all that he does is not get the quarterback hit, not make mistakes, not make stupid penalties. He just does his job. You know, I'm sorry that he's not some bruiser. There seems like some bruiser in the run game, but I mean, what is wrong with Jared? Like, why is Jared Patterson? Everything has to go wrong before Jared Patterson gets on the field, even at guard. Because even when he plays guard, he doesn't do stupid stuff. He's a smart player.
Yeah, you'll see some plays that got away from him, but I can say the same about Trent Brown, obviously Juice Scruggs, obviously Jake Andrews. I can say it about Jared Patterson. Ariante Ursary had a great game. I would say until the fourth quarter when the Texans started coming back, especially that final drive. The final drive was the toughest drive on Ursary because every down, and for Trent Brown, every down, Trayvon Walker and Josh Hine Allen are just pinning their ears back. They know the Texans have to pass. They got to go 93 yards. They got to get a touchdown. So every down, Josh Hines Allen is flying off the ball. And but Ursary didn't get beat bad. He didn't have a rep like the Nick Bonito play last week where he completely whiffs. So we're still seeing that progress week in, week out. But late in those pass reps on that final drive, Hines Allen was leaking off, getting pressure there late, including on the 3rd and 10. When the Texans were backed up on their own 7-yard line, Mills was feeling the pressure from Hines Allen leaking off on the end and made a leaping pass that hit Schultz. That's another thing that made it so impressive. But Ursary kept hanging tight, and I think because Hines Allen was getting off so fast, and on the other side, Trayvon Walker was able to get off so fast on that last series as well, that you saw false starts from those guys on that game-winning touchdown drive because they're just trying to do anything to get an edge to get out there because those guys in that situation, when they can just pin their ears back and fly, it's hard for the big man to stay in their stereotypical kick and not try to expedite it. So to try to get an extra inch or so or leave a split second early is something they look for. But I want y'all's thought on this. Last week I was saying I felt the Texans were out of the playoff hunt. They lost a game at Denver I thought they had to have. And I'm not saying they're back in it or not. What I will say, though, last week I said if you feel like they are out, put Blake Fisher in there. Put him in that right tackle. Trent Brown, he had some whiffs. He had some bad plays, but he held up for the most part, and he mauled in the running game. Do you kick Titus Howard? It's the same thought principle. Do you kick him to left guard? And to come full circle back to your Jared Patterson question, I think he's a center. I've said since the beginning of the year, I thought he should be starting over Jake Andrews. I still think Jake Patterson is a center. He's serviceable at guard if you want to place him out there, but I think he's a good center.
Yeah, you're so even on him and Jake Andrews that you just called him Jake Patterson. You've got basically.
Oh, did I?
Yeah,
I try to mush them together. I pulled the Gary Kubiak when Kubiak used to say, "Hey, Jacoby Jones and Kevin Walter, if you put them together, we've got a great number 2 wide receiver." Like, doesn't work that way. Sorry, I'm sorry, it don't work that way. But now I'm trying to do it with center and left guard.
Yeah, I thought Trent was actually. Yeah, I agree with you. He looked like good enough that maybe you move Titus, but again, Tom, I just Jared Patterson, he just doesn't make mistakes. I mean, it's a lot to me that you don't get the quarterback hit, which I mean, unless I missed something, I don't think Jared Patterson was ever close to getting the quarterback hit in this game. And it also says something to me that, you just, for this offensive line, hey, go out there and play a clean game. Can you not make a penalty? Can somebody besides Jared Patterson get out there and not have we always have these like killer penalties, and not Jared Patterson. I mean, I'm trying to think. In the games that Jared Patterson's played in the last 3 years, has he had a key penalty, or have I missed that?
I don't know. It's a good question. I mean, with as bad as this offensive line has been, I think they're just throwing stuff at the wall to see what sticks, if I'm being completely honest. The one thing I don't think will happen, and it's the one thing that Jayson alluded to, I don't think they're going to kick Titus Howard in. I just don't. I think he doesn't want to go there. I think they're about their players. He's going to play him where he wants to play, regardless of how much it probably would help the offensive line to kick him in. I wish they could figure it out, because I really feel like if Jayson made a great conversation for all the potential moves they could make in the offseason. And if they did all of that and didn't address the offensive line, we're going to be talking about somebody getting fired again, because that needs to be priority 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 to figure out the offensive line. I don't care about a running back. I don't care about a tight end. I don't care about anything else until you give me an offensive line, because they've shown, whether it's Davis Mills or whether it's CJ Stroud, hell, Graham Mertz could have got in there. And if they would have blocked for him, they got good enough guys to make plays. It's just the fact that when they can't get good blocking, you see them not look good. I think the run game looked really good today. That was the number 3 rush defense in the league, and they went over 100 yards, and they've been holding everybody to 89. So what do you, I mean, it's tough. What frustrates me about this game, and this is the last thing I'll say, what frustrated me in the beginning, what frustrated me in the middle, and what frustrated me in the end, is that you can see it, that the pieces are there. You can see that there's enough there to be all that we want and do all the things. They have moments in different spots all over that make you go, damn, that team could be good. And then they find ways to screw it up, whether it's Nico, like you like to say all the time, screwing it all up from his sideline, or whatever. They find ways to just different ways every week to do it differently. This week it was the special teams, for whatever reason. And it's so frustrating. But I feel like if they can ever get that all together, ever put it all together, they can beat anybody. And to answer your question about, the playoff thing, Buffalo got beat by Miami. And I don't know Miami is a good football team. And Buffalo lost to Houston last year. So I believe that they could go get a win at Buffalo, the one they didn't get at Denver, and we could be talking about the same record in the same place that they would be. We're like, well, maybe. So who knows?
Yeah, Buffalo, it's at NRG, right? That's an NRG game. So Thursday night, short rest, and they just didn't get beat by Miami. They got beat by 17. And just to flip back, because I forgot to mention it when Jayson was talking about Ursary, I said on X before the game, I'm like, let's see how Ursary has developed over the last few weeks, because he got killed by Heinz Allen. Yeah. I said, if he is a good tackle, a smart tackle, we're going to see where he is during this game. And he did not disappoint. He made progress. He did not get beat by Heinz Allen like he did get beat the last time. Also want to throw out Brandon's quote, because this is a pretty good one. Mills told the Jags, better luck next time. And for you on audio, he spells next NECKS, because just look at the photos, kids. And Jayson pointed this out. And as Tom just mentioned about the special teams, Jayson said, Texans had almost 200 more net yards than the Jags. Texans go 10 for 15 on third down. Texans net passing, 282. They crushed it compared to the Jags, who only threw for 119. They crushed it in most of the categories in this game, and it looks totally different this game if it wasn't for Frank Ross special teams just having an atrocious game. Any final thoughts, Jayson, before we close it out?
Yeah, I think we'll probably hear 1 or 2 people this week say, hey, is the Titans a trap game for the Texans, like we hear with college all the time? I don't think the Texans have the luxury of having a trap game, so I don't have any issues with that. I think what the Titans game is, obviously one they should win and finally get back to 500. I don't think they've been 500 at all this year. No, started 0-3, so they haven't been 500 at all this year. They should get back to 500. That's a win. Then you worry about Buffalo, Indy, KC after that. Like we've been talking about this year, the AFC's open. Y'all were just talking about the Buffalo Bills losing to Miami Dolphins. It happens every week. So I think you take it week by week after that. What you're looking for the Titans game outside of a definitive win is one that if you're going to keep throwing stuff against the wall, like Tom mentioned with the offensive line, go ahead and use some of your experiments again in that game, because that's a game you could possibly have a little bit more margin of error to get away with it. But try to fine tune it to where you're not having to tinker with anything for that Buffalo game, especially on a short week, like Robert reminded us as well. And that's it for me, guys.
Tom, you got to keep starting CD So. It's working. We're 1-0 with CD So as a starting.
Credit to D'Amico Ryans for putting CD So in the offensive line, and credit to D'Amico Ryans for having an imaginative playbook that he did this week. We saw some really good plays. I hope he keeps doing it, because I think he's doing a good job. No, that's Nick Caley. Nick Caley did a really good job today. I'm going to give credit to Nick Caley. I'm not going to make it about upper. That's the story for me. The evolution of Nick Caley will go miles to see this team become more competent on offense, and then we're not talking about a team that can't score points, because that was all J.J. Watt said all day. This team just can't score points. It's the only problem they have. Every team's going to have mistakes and penalties and this and that, and still find ways to win games. When the Texans can score points, they can beat anybody.
I just keep saying it. I'm tired of saying it. I mean, we got to fire Nick Caserio, because the Astros starting pitching just can't stay healthy. And they lost.
Kevin Durant has all these turnovers.
Right.
Kevin Durant has the turnovers. Kelvin Sampson keeps taking Nick Caserio's advice in the NCAA finals about what to do on offense late in the game. I'm tired of it. Get rid of Nick Caserio. It is at Jayson Braddock, Jayson with a Y, Tom Chavarria at Third Coast Tom. That's third spelled out. If you're listening on audio, it's the Bullpen podcast with him and James Roy. Go check that out. Obviously, you know where to find Jason and all his work with the Roto stuff. And also, thanks for joining us on this fantastic Houston Sports Talk live Texans post-game show presented by FanDuel. It's FanDuel.com. That's where you want to go for, your over-unders and your Texans numbers and stuff like that. Go check out FanDuel.com. And as always, thanks to all of our listeners, all of the people commenting. Really appreciate you guys. And thanks to Jason and Tom. Great insight. Go Texans.
You're listening to Houston Sports Talk.
Hey, don't forget to support us by subscribing and commenting on YouTube. You can always listen to us on Spotify, Apple, or your favorite podcast app. Tell your friends about us and share our show links on social media. Spread the word, everybody. Thanks for listening.